Welcome back, everybody. It's a wonderful Friday, and we are so happy you're with us. And we are right here on the Now Morning Show. All week long, we've been engaging in the youth in discussion about the importance of the youth vote. Today, we'll be speaking with former youth parliamentarian Annalisa Ramsaran and former national and regional youth parliamentarian Jasia Digans. Good morning and welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Jasia.
Yes, you are pronouncing it correctly.
Wonderful.
Good morning.
So, Jasia, let's go to you first. Let's discuss the significance of youth involvement in this election.
Well, I think that youth involvement is very important. And during this election period, a lot of youths were saying to me, I don't want to vote. I don't think politics is important. I'm not interested in politics. And I had to tell some of them that even if you may not have that avid interest in politics, politics affects each and every single one of us. I told them even prior to the election that whoever we were going to elect as a country to run this country for the next 5 years, every decision that that person makes would impact them, it would impact me, and it would impact our future generations. So I think that even if you may not be an avid lover of politics, you must pay attention to it because decisions impact us.
Definitely, and I'm sticking with you a little bit. What are some of the major issues from your perspective that affect youth in their everyday lives when it comes to politics?
Well, I think that employment, because even before this election and this COVID-19 period, a lot of youths would make jokes and say, imagine I have my degree, I have my subjects, and I can't find a job. And I know that with COVID-19, a lot of people were laid off. So employment now is a difficult thing for youths, especially those who are coming out of university, because I know that the universities across Trinidad and Tobago have thousands of graduates each year, even those students who just finished CAPE and CXC and they are looking for employment, especially now with COVID-19 at play. I know that employment is one of the key areas that affect youths in Trinidad and Tobago, even education, if I could go a little further, because with COVID-19, as we know, schools were locked down. So students had to resort to online learning. And I've heard from some SEA students that they are nervous about the SEA examination that is supposed to be on the 20th of August because they feel as though they were not adequately prepared for the exam, especially as there was a shifting of learning from classroom to online. And it's not that the teachers didn't do the job, because a lot of teachers put in the work. But for the students, the whole shift from a classroom setting to online, that kind of created, I guess, fear for some of them. Some of them, the home environment, were not conducive for learning. So I think those two major issues affect youth, employment and even education.
Annalisa, I want to bring you into the conversation. Preparing for this interview, you mentioned tribal politics. You want to extrapolate on that a little?
Well, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have a history of voting based on race. And I think particularly with this election, we have seen a change, especially with the youths not voting because their grandmom or mother votes for a certain party, Whilst there has been a change in tribal politics, we still see some youths, however, voting because their family vote for a particular party. And then we have some youths not voting at all.
Annalisa, I just want to jump in here for a second. I want you to weigh in on why do you think even after the election, all this race talk has flared up so strongly?
Okay, so I think racism is something taught. It's a mentality, and especially with the outcome of elections, it has been disturbing, to say the least, to see the comments that have been made on social media pertaining elections. And I think it is something inbred in society in Trinidad and Tobago, and there needs to be some change, especially, I think, having a predominantly Indian, a predominantly Afro party. This could be a contributing factor with that divide, I think that is definitely a contributing factor to seeing these comments that are being made on social media.
And what about you, Jasia? Can you weigh in on the public escalation of the racism since elections?
Yes, I was honestly very shocked because I grew up in Tobago. I spent 15 years of my life in Tobago.
Right.
And I have never experienced that kind of thing in Tobago. I moved over to Trinidad 3 years ago. And, just seeing this thing online coming to the surface, I was really, really shocked. But I think what is important is that we view ourselves as nationals of Trinidad and Tobago, not as East Indian or Afro-Trinidadian or mixed or whatnot. I think that is important for us as young people to view ourselves as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And if we have a national mentality, I think that could help to, cure that racism that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. And I strongly believe that we, as this generation, we could make the change. And why I believe that is because Annalisa rightly said it. A lot of people in our generation did not vote based on what their grandmothers voted for, what their parents voted for. They were rational in their decisions. And I believe that our generation is a rational generation. We don't just go on what our ancestors or forefathers said. We think it through. So I think that we, as a generation, could make that change in terms of trying to move away from racism in this society.
Right. Yeah. Now, we showed a video this morning with a young man, suggesting or, calling out the country for, let's come together, let's unite and all that good stuff. But I noticed something very interesting. There was a message written in the video that said, that the media needs to stop perpetuating it. Do you think that this conversation that we're having now is going to help or hurt? Do we even need to keep talking about racism in Trinidad and Tobago? Should we just stop the conversation completely and move on?
Actually, no, I don't think that we should, because that is like sweeping it under the carpet. If we just say, let's stop the conversation and move on, that's sweeping it under the carpet and that's not addressing it. I think that we need to address it on these platforms and also not just address it and not just talk about it, but act on it. Actually start to see things from a different perspective, because it's one thing to talk about something, but it's another thing to act on the information. So I think that once people become aware that, yes, I may have racist ideals, I may have a racist mindset, I need to work on it. Once people become aware and they get the correct information, they can start acting and working on it.
Now, education is a part of it, and we spoke about that in a previous conversation with another guest. But how do you educate someone who is, one, unwilling to learn, and so set in their ways it's difficult for them to even begin to make a change?
Well, I honestly think that our generation, even though there may be people in our generation who may be set in their ways and unwilling to make a change, if the wider or the large amount, a huge amount of our generation, members of our generation are willing to make a change, that will make an impact. Because the truth is sometimes peer pressure could be positive. So even if there may be individuals who may think that they don't want to make a change, this was embedded in me from birth and whatnot, if the wider population or more youth stand up against it and decide we are not bowing to racism, we are not going to be racist, and a movement is started or something like that, then I think that positive peer pressure may just help those who may think that they are stuck in their ways and they don't want to change.
I want to throw the same question out to you, Annalisa.
Yeah, I agree with what Jaysha said. On social media for the past days, we've seen the youth holding persons accountable for what they have said on social media, which led them to apologize. And I think if the youths continue on this same road, holding persons accountable for what they think, and also encouraging them to do better as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, because the only way that we would move forward is by changing our ideology. Racism is something that is not accepted in Trinidad and Tobago because we live in a melting pot. Come on, look at our society. There is no place for you to be racist in this country. So as I said again, with the youth holding those accountable for their statements being racist and whatnot, I think we can definitely hold them accountable, as I said before, and make them change their mindset, encourage them about their what their words can do, how they can hurt other people, the impact that their words have. So by holding them accountable, definitely, maybe, hopefully, their mentality can change.
And, I want to, you are both youth parliamentarians, and you will be familiar with policy. What about the change or the implementation of certain policies to actively and in a legal way combat racism?
I think whilst policy will have its benefits. It again all comes down to implementation at the end of the day. It is all well and good to say, okay, I want to do this that is going to help mitigate the effects of racism, but at the end of the day, if authorities, if the relevant bodies do not implement policies, then nothing is going to change. We will still have the same ideologies being spread throughout Trinidad and Tobago.
Words without action is vain. Well, we do have to thank you and end the interview this morning, but I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning and helping us ventilate this topic. And we do have to continue this conversation as much as we possibly can so that we could continue the positive message that there, as you were rightly saying, there's no space for racism in Trinidad and Tobago. So that was former youth parliamentarian Annalisa Ramsaran and former national and regional youth parliamentarian Jasia De Gans. Thank you again.